Hi guys, welcome to SUCE's first industry talk. We're joined here with North Projects, many of which were actually on the executive team of SUCE. So it's great to welcome them back. And I'd just like to introduce them first. So we have Jonathan Warburton, who's the director, Andrew Lynch, who's associate and ACT sector lead, Cameron Voss, associate New South Wales building sector lead, and Aileen Kokak-Corellos, Senior Consultant Technical Advisory. So for North Projects, could you introduce yourselves, a bit about your background, education and current role?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Naomi. Just wondering, that slideshow's sharing for everyone.
Yep, looks good, mate.
Thank you very much. Okay, apologies.
Are we good to go?
Just trying to figure that out. Okay.
Okay, I'll go first. So my name's Jonathan Warburton. I'm the director at the Sydney office. I've been working for North for around 2 months now. My background, unfortunately, is not civil engineering. However, I've been working on civil engineering projects for the last 15 years. I've been lucky enough to work in the UK, Africa, the Middle East, and now Australia. Most recently, I was involved in the Snowy Hydro project, which was a $5 billion project and it's a project of national significance in Australia, massive hydroelectric scheme. So I've come on board with North to further develop the business over the next years of growth.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Andrew Lynch, associate with North. I've been with North since the start of the year, so 6 or 7 months now. Currently working down in the ACT, a number of projects, including and primarily working within North's defence portfolio, working on some project management engagements we have with the Department of Defence. As Naomi mentioned, I'm one of us here that's formerly from SUCE and from the University of Sydney. Like many of you, studied a Bachelor of Engineering, civil engineering that is. And I guess since the uni days, I've been working a number of roles, primarily working as an engineering contractor. So on the builder side of things, now in a consulting role with North.
My name is Cameron Voss. Like Andrew, I was also involved in SUCE on the exec back at Sydney Uni, studied civil engineering as well. My background is as well on the contractor side. I've had a number of roles there. So worked in design management, worked on site in different project engineering capacities. I've done some consulting work for all different government sectors, and I've been with North for a little over a year now. So I help manage the building sector here in Sydney, and I'm across a few other business units as well in the Sydney office.
Hi all, my name's Aileen. My background is in civil engineering. I also went to Sydney Uni, but I was not involved in any of the societies. I wasn't. I started out my career out on site in a few of the large tunnelling jobs around Sydney. So I was a graduate engineer on the WestConnex tunnels, and then I went into the City Metro tunnels. Then I moved from site work into tendering work, so bidding for jobs, construction jobs still. And then I joined North about 1.5 years ago, and I've been doing consulting ever since.
Okay, good. So just to give you a bit about North. So at the moment, we were founded around 10 years ago. We actually celebrated our 10-year anniversary in Hobart only a couple of weeks ago. The whole team throughout Australia flew to Hobart. It was a great time to be part of North projects. It was we were able to do a lot of team building, connecting with the wider offices in Australia. We've got around 120 staff at this present moment in time, and we're located in the big cities within Australia: Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, Adelaide, Hobart, Perth and Darwin. And most recently, we have just opened an office in London. So we're now going global. So let's see where that takes us.
Play the video.
And yeah, we'll just give you a video, 2 minutes, to give you some insight into what we do at North.
Who could have imagined back in 2011, when North started with just 2 employees in Melbourne, that it would grow into a company with over 100 full-time employees and a project portfolio worth over $90 billion. At North, we think and act differently from our industry peers. We provide strategic advice and delivery expertise for the Australian property and infrastructure sectors across a diverse range of services, including business case advisory, technical due diligence, PPP advisory, risk advisory, project management, community and stakeholder engagement, first principle estimating, quantity surveying. At North, we think big. The biggest hospital PPP in Australia, the biggest infrastructure project in the history of New Zealand, the biggest pumped hydro in the Southern Hemisphere, the biggest road project in Victorian history, the biggest metro project in Australian history, the biggest twin road tunnel in Australian history, and the first specialist cancer hospital in Australia. We've made it our purpose to collaborate and connect to improve the property and infrastructure landscape for the future in Australia. We've made it our mission to provide simple, honest and sustainable solutions that yield exceptional value for our clients and shareholders in the property and infrastructure sector. North's vision is to be the go-to partner for extraordinary outcomes through the provision of unique, multidisciplinary project services. And above all, North values integrity, agility, simplicity, reliability, diversity, and meaningfulness. These 6 core values promote trust in our people and company, supporting how we will achieve our vision. As an integral member of the North team, we're excited to be on this journey with you. Growth at North is starting together now.
It was so good. I thought we were going to play the video again then. As I say, we went into a lot of the detail and give you a bit of an overview within the video. But typically, we do work on major civil engineering projects, social infrastructure. So that is hospitals, schools, things like that. We're in utilities, property, so property development companies use us for advice within their schemes. Culture and sports and recreation and manufacturing resources. Now, without going into all the detail of the services we offer, I would say that in respect of the civil engineering profession, we rely on the skills learned through your degree or the skills that civil engineers bring to construction projects, whether it's the constructability input, maybe the interpretation of design, which allows us to advise our clients and within a range of these services. Again, the skills that you learn through problem solving, being able to advise on program and feasibility of schemes are skills that we value at North, and these are all things that I believe you will learn through your civil engineering degree. We employ people from different backgrounds, and when I say that, different backgrounds from either your traditional design, engineering, consultancy background, or when you go to work with a contractor and you're able to apply these skills within the service range that we offer clients. Okay.
Right.
So I'll talk to this. So just wanted to give a brief overview over how those services that we've just talked about actually come to fruition on a project, because I think a lot of people may be asking, okay, these different services are quite technical. What does that actually mean? What does that actually entail us doing, and how is that relevant for a project? And I think it's a simple view to look at it and think, okay, a project gets born, designed, and built. But there are a lot of other phases that are involved in that, and that's where we add a lot of value and where a lot of our work comes in. So just looking at this, the first phase of cost planning, really that's where a project is going to get the green light or the red light. Is it going to go ahead? And so what's involved in that is a feasibility approach. So our role in that, we may do some constructability review. We'll come up with estimating figures for how much the project's actually going to cost. How would you actually build it? What are the risks involved there? How does that change over time? And what are some of the engineering considerations that we need to put into it right now at this stage? Then we go into the design phases. So this is where we'll work closely with design engineers from those big design consultancies. And we actually help advise them on how do you build this? What are the constraints? We'll help manage the design process. So the different revisions of design, how things are going to change, do certain design solutions work together? And we'll also continue to update costs and do reporting on the costs and risks through that design phase to make sure that what ends up going to be built is buildable, is on budget, matches the benefits that we might have assessed when we were seeing if the project is feasible, and things like that. That third phase there, procurement. Well, this is how we actually take a project from its designed form into the next phase, which will help us build that project. So this procurement phase is mostly where contractors will do tendering for the project. So they'll come up with the price and the method for building that. And so our role in that is twofold. Sometimes we'll assist on the client side. So whether that's for a government agency or Transport for New South Wales or a developer, and we'll help them prepare a pre-tender estimate of what we expect those tenders to come in at. We'll come up with some construction methodologies and constructability. We'll help them assess the tender and see if what has come back is fit for purpose and a fair proposal. And we can assess all sorts of different things that have come back in that tender, such as contract negotiations, cash flow program, all of those different project management items. And then finally, we assist fairly heavily in the construction and completion side of things. Sometimes we do that at a consultant capacity where we'll undertake contract administration and help them deliver the contract that they've signed up for. Sometimes we'll do that in a consultant capacity, managing their costs and forecast and budget. And other times we'll actually second people to work for the contractor in an engineering capacity. So a contractor may use our resources internally to deliver the project and monitor program on site, monitor buildability, monitor the costs, and actually organize the site. So there's a broad range of services that we provide from the very inception and idea of a project right through to that project actually being built. And I think that's one of the key benefits of working for a company like North, is that it enables you to tap into all of those different skills that we learn at uni when we do civil engineering. And realistically, the civil engineering profession is one that enables us to develop all of those skills and add value to all of those spaces, which is, again, why we've invested so heavily in SUCE and in young civil engineers more broadly. And then just to wrap that up, what does all of that mean? What types of projects do we work on? In those different spaces that we've just talked about, this cost planning and management, we take on a lot of work in the roads, highways space, tunnels, transport infrastructure, so things like rail, Sydney Metro. We work in the buildings, commercial development space, health, so hospitals, and education, which is schools. As you can see here, I won't read all of these out, but we operate in a range of other sectors for all of our different disciplines, particularly in project management. We also have that additional capacity in defence, which Andrew looks after. I'll now just go through a few of our key projects. So one that we want to highlight here first is the Great Western Highway upgrade, and this is Australia's largest ever road tunnelling project. A lot of these projects you'll have seen referenced in that video, but I just wanted to take some time to say what we actually did on that. So we're currently working on Great Western Highway as their estimator in the design phase. We've also worked in the feasibility phase on this project. And what that actually entails is us coming up with the quantities and methodology for how to build that project, and also coming up with the cost estimates, how much it'll cost, setting their budget, and then eventually we'll go into advising on the business case for that one to actually go ahead and achieve funding. Next, we've worked on Transmission Gully. This one's finished. This is New Zealand's biggest ever infrastructure project. And we were doing some engineering work on that in the completions and quality space. So our role on that was to certify that everything was done to spec and to the standards, and make sure the quality of their as-built documentation and what they've built is up to those standards. We managed the design process and the non-conformance process as it was closing out. And realistically, what we were mostly doing there is verifying all of their records to enable them to actually open the road, which has just opened this year. Next is Snowy Hydro 2, the largest energy storage project in the Southern Hemisphere and Australia's largest renewable energy project ever. We're still currently working on this project as well, and we work on that in a cost management and site engineering capacity. So we're assisting with the actual delivery of that project out on site, as well as managing things like the contract documentation, day-to-day administration activities for the monthly claims, and other cost, quality, program and safety items. The last, one of the last ones that I'll talk about, WestConnex Stage 3B. This is Australia's largest road infrastructure project ever. Our role on that was actually assisting one of the contractors who tendered for the project. So our role there was to assess those quantities in the tender design docs. We helped with procuring the subcontractors and the individual pricing of different items on that. And we assisted with the estimation to actually come up with the price that was submitted by the JV for that. And finally, in the defence space, we're currently engaged for a RAF base in Wagga as the lead project manager. The project is mostly made up of minor capital works in the aircraft hangars and with some electrical infrastructure. But what's interesting in this one is our liaison with the Department of Defence and the different stakeholders that are actually involved with working on a RAF site that's live. So there's a lot of different complexities with that one. But it just highlights a range of different roles that we take on across the industry and a range of different sectors that we're able to work on. And that goes back to one of those core values that we have of agility, which is we empower our people to take on these different roles and different project types. And it's something that we really value as North. So that's the end of our slideshow. Naomi, I think we can stop sharing this slideshow now and probably transition to the interviewing stage. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much for the information that you guys shared. I'm sure everyone has learned so much more about North projects as well. Just a reminder to sign up through our link so that you get your PEP hours. I'll start off with the questions. So how did the opportunity present itself to work at North projects, and what do you love working? What do you love about working in the organization?
I'll let Aylin answer that one.
So I actually got this job through LinkedIn. So one thing I wanted to highlight as well to all of you on the call is how important it is to keep your LinkedIn up to date, because that was something that was a big selling point for me. I applied through the job board, but then the company looked me up through LinkedIn, saw my experience out on site, and it was a big. So that's how I got involved in it. What was the second part of the question?
What do you love about working at North projects?
What do I love about working at North? So I guess being able to be involved in all those different areas that Cam spoke about earlier, the life cycle of the project. So being able to do a little bit of pre-tender work, a little bit of estimating, a little bit of construction. I prefer that broad range of skills. I think that everything that you learn at uni, especially as a civil engineer, is to really become a jack of all trades, I guess, and you get to apply that here at North. And also the team building, like they sent us all to Tasmania a few weeks ago, so that was very, very cool.
Nice. Andrew, would you like to share about your story?
Yeah, my joining North was not too dissimilar to Aylin. I saw it was publicly advertised. And again, I was presumably searched on LinkedIn. So definitely echoing Aylin's comments there. But I think that's across the industry more broadly, potentially it's the exception to the rule, if you like, seeing an advertised position that's publicly available and going for it. A lot of you will know, but it's very common in our industry. Probably 90% of people, in fact, in roles in our industry would have been, through personal connections, not necessarily publicly available jobs on job boards. So to any of you listening, looking for a job, whether it be as an intern, graduate, or even later through your career, I'd highly recommend, just start to build that professional network. It's so important. And definitely don't rely on publicly available jobs on Seek or advertised on LinkedIn. They are few and far between. And if you ask any employer, they would definitely rather take someone on through their professional network, through people that they've dealt with and been in communication with and they know, rather than going externally. And again, the second part of the question, what do I love about North Projects? For me, it really is the diversity of work. As Cam mentioned, there's just so many different things we do across a range of industries. There's a lot of overlap in the skills and capability of them. And on the types of projects, however, there's just a huge range. So I've been at North since the start of the year, and already there's just so many different things I've worked on in so many different capacities. Gives me a great opportunity to really expand my skill set, and no 2 days are the same.
Yeah, that's great to hear the different opportunities that you guys have through the diversity of work. What about you, Cameron?
So the opportunity to come and work for North was a fairly serendipitous one. I ended up actually getting offered a grad role with North in 2016. So a long time ago. I didn't end up taking it for a range of reasons that aren't relevant, but it's one thing that always stuck out to me was the company's values, and I'd always kept in the back of my mind that was a company that I eventually wanted to work for. I had some different things that I wanted to go and do in my life, and then in the middle of last year, it was actually at the start of last year, I had a bit of an epiphany that, yep, now is the time to go over and try and make an impact in the organization. And so I knew someone within the organization quite well and ended up having a conversation with him. I was living in Canberra at the time. I ended up moving back to Sydney and took the role, and the rest is history, as they say. I won't say the same reasons for loving my role at North as the others, just for the benefit of everyone listening, I guess, although I do love those things. But what I'll say to working at North, and something that I think is so important, is the culture and the collaborative nature. We have an open plan office, and it really is the type of environment that you can go up to the director and ask a question, even if you're interning. It's the type of environment where everyone's working together. It's a very goal-focused environment, and it's one that I really appreciate personally. And I think it makes a significant professional difference in the quality of our outputs. We can point in the same direction as a collective, rather than having people pigeonholed into one role and with, I guess, one set of eyes looking at it. And I think that's a key part of business that we get right.
Yeah, culture is a big thing. And what about you, Jonathan?
So I was actually working for a client of North. So I was a commercial manager on the Snowy Hydro project. So that entailed me, and over the last 15 years, I've very much been involved in the commercial claims and dispute resolution sector within construction. Now, What attracted me to North is that it's a growing business. They're young, they're agile, and they're ready to make moves within this industry. Think of it as a company that's really punching above its weight. They've got the bespoke nature to offer clients numerous different services, but they're also agile enough to again to be able to offer professional services within this industry. So again, we're a growing business, and that's really what attracted me to North Projects.
Yeah, that's great. So for Cameron, you mentioned something about North Projects culture. So could you go in and describe a bit more about North Projects work culture?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can give some specific examples as well. I guess at a high level, exactly what I've just said in terms of collaboration is key. And you would have seen in the video those core values that we have, meaningfulness, diversity, inclusion, all of those things really are core to the fiber of our company. And so the culture that we have here is very inclusive. We have people from a range of cultural backgrounds. We have a huge range of diversity and inclusion. And I think that really aids to our culture being one that lets people be themselves. And realistically, the way that sort of comes out is that we don't have this very structured colleague mentality: come in at 9, don't talk to anyone, go home at 5. We're the kind of office that do have casual chats all the time. We do go for coffees in the morning. We have a ping pong table. We'll go and have a beer on a Friday night, that kind of thing. And it really is the type of culture that stuff is promoted, not just through those social avenues, but the way that we work is really reflective of that. And it needs to be for a company of this nature that is growing, that does have so many different service offerings, that does have so many backgrounds of people with different skills, because we need to be able to lean on those to achieve that agility that Jonathan's referenced.
Yeah, it's great to see just the amount of culture and diversity that you guys have. And I think for the next question, I would like to ask, where would the young graduates or undergraduates fit into the company?
I mean, I can take that as ultimately it depends on the client's needs, but from my experience, we like to maybe come in from the grassroots level, maybe depending on what is required at a moment in time. That could be coming into maybe the cost management and quantity surveying team, using your knowledge of the design, being able to take off quantities, measure quantities, be able to provide input into the development of cost plans. In addition to that, we were able to offer people seconded roles on site with contractors. Now, that for us is key, because we're able to give experience within the office and out on site. We like our graduates to have that exposure and site experience, and then they're able to bring that knowledge and use it when they come back to the office to help with the input in some of the technical advisory roles, the cost estimation, feasibility studies, constructability, to ultimately make our people well-rounded individuals. So that is the aim of our graduate route, I will say, when we get new starters within the business.
Yeah, that sounds great. And along that question, what kind of candidates are North Projects looking for? I know that you guys spoke a little bit about like the different backgrounds or what we have learned. So could you guys go a bit more into that?
I mean, I'll add something to that. Is what we would normally look for, right? Is it's very hard when we get graduates. A lot of people don't have experience, right? They have a degree. You can get a good mark in the degree. That's all well and good. For me, I want people who come in who can demonstrate that they're willing to work on initiative, hardworking, are presentable. And when I say that, they can they offer, or they have the ability to communicate well, is one thing. I want someone who's also understands what's going on in the industry. and is able to show that passion for the industry, because that I think is a key. So we can all go to university. I've done it. We go to the university. We do well in our degree, and we do well in our studies. But you need that passion, and that's the type of people we want at North.
Yeah, definitely agree about the passion and taking initiative in our roles. Does anyone else have anything to share?
I think I'll just add to that as well. I think that keenness and enthusiasm and desire to learn and put in the extra yards to grow, I think those are the absolute key to success. And so I think there are a few indicators that we can look for to see how much someone is going to be willing to commit to those types of things, because at the end of the day, we're a company that's so focused on investing in people that we want those people to invest back in us. And so I think the key to all of that is attitude. How much does someone want to learn? How much is someone willing to take risks in their own career and maybe step outside of their comfort zone and do something they didn't envision themselves doing? Those are the kinds of things that I look for, because if someone has a very rigid plan in their mind for what they want to do in their career, I can almost guarantee that that's not how their career is going to go, because so many things change and it's such a dynamic industry, and particularly at a company like North, we need to be dynamic and we need to be adaptable. And so I would say that attitude and just willingness to try anything, give your all to it, and just always showing up and caring about what you're doing, that to me is the most essential part that you can try and come across. At the end of the day, technical competency is one thing, and it's obviously highly valued, but we will never get the true capability out of someone if they don't really want to give it their all and they don't really want to put a microscope on everything that they're doing.
Completely agree with Cam there. In terms of just having a good attitude. I just wanted to pick up on a point that Jonathan made about experience, and maybe just a personal experience of mine. When I was an undergraduate in university, applying for a number of jobs and getting knocked back, I was really constrained, and I really felt like I was being held back by not having any experience. And looking back on it, I just couldn't have been more wrong, I think. It's great to have some sort of experience, and that's great to put that forward. But a lot of companies, when they're looking to take on interns and graduates, well, they're looking for somebody who does have a good attitude, but it's not necessary to actually have an experience. And it's more important to show up. And as Jonathan says, invest yourself in the industry, make yourself really knowledgeable, and don't feel like you can't be putting yourself forward, and don't feel like you can't be applying for these jobs if you don't have any experience. It's so much more important to have a good attitude, put yourself out there, than it is to have a stellar resume. Because if a company's looking to take someone on with a huge resume, with all this different experience, well, they're not going to be. It's not a graduate position, if you know what I mean. If they're looking for interns and grads, well, you're not necessarily expected to have a great deal of experience.
Yeah. That's definitely relatable. But yeah, really great tips for all of us to take on in showing up and just having that attitude to take initiative. Aileen, did you have anything to share?
I really liked what Andrew was saying about the experience. I think as well, one thing is don't hold yourself back because you think I don't have all of the qualifications on this job or this job board. If it's a company that the values align with your own, if you think you could really learn there and thrive there, then apply for sure. Don't hold yourself back. I think it's something that young women do. I definitely did. I didn't apply for a lot of jobs because I thought they're not going to want me. My marks aren't that good. Why would I bother? And exactly what Cam was saying as well. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we always have to remember that people hire people. People don't hire resumes. People don't hire degrees. People hire people. And every person has their value. And the task for all of you, I guess, is to find the company that aligns with your values and your ambitions and your drive, and work there.
Yeah, that sounds great. And just you're giving it your all and to not hold yourself back.
Absolutely.
And I think for the next question, so what's one tip that you would give to students who are pursuing infrastructure advisory? Let's start off with Aileen.
I want to say that I had some site experience before I came into the advisory space, and it helped me so much to visualize everything that we're doing now, or that being able to actually see the design come to life is an incredible tool that I found really useful personally. Mm-hmm. What about you guys?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's exactly why that's a great philosophy of ours for our young employees, to try and get them that exposure on site, because you're exactly right. You can't do it without that physical understanding of what's going on. In terms of advisory, one thing that I would say as a piece of advice is, don't enter into a new world expecting to know everything. There are so many different facets of our industry that we get somewhat exposed to through our degree, that we would probably be a little bit discouraged from going into the more technical sides of that and the advisory side of that, because we think, I don't know enough about that yet. I've done a lot of steel design at uni. Maybe I'll go and do steel design. I would implore someone who's interested in maybe the more, I guess, technical or management or financial aspects of engineering, to not be discouraged by the limited exposure that you've had. You don't need to necessarily know anything. Again, it's all attitude, as we've said again and again. But I think once you go into something knowing that you can't possibly know everything yet, it lets us have an open mind and lets us learn those new skills, which are crucially important to becoming a good consultant and a good advisor, and in time, a valuable member of our industry.
Yeah, definitely. Just having that attitude and be willing to learn. Jonathan or Angie, do you guys have anything to share?
I mean, all I will add is key skills that we, thinking about the advisory space, is key skills that you will learn in your degree: problem solving, planning, timekeeping, time management. I'm sure you do all this. The ability to write reports. I'm sure you're all busy doing assignments and all these types of things. These are all key skills that will make you a valuable asset to a technical advisory company, right? And then you start applying your knowledge learned in the civil engineering space. You can that makes you a valuable asset to a company like ours.
But yeah, that sounds great. And what about you, Andrew?
For me, the most important piece of advice to give is just to network. It's just so important. I used to think of it as a piece of advice that was given out to exclusively undergraduates, that you do your networking to get a job. Well, yeah, that is important, but it's something that we as professionals do not stop doing for the entirety of your career. You hear the tips of how to meet people and get involved in the industry. Well, that's something that we do day to day. So it's not just about, how to get a job. It's also about, how to connect with peers in your industry. How do you make professional connections, so that, when we're engaged on a project and we need, some special advice, or we needed to talk to or consult with other people, we have that professional network as a business. It's not just about getting a job. It's about, just being connected really broadly within the industry. There's so many different ways to do it. Whether it be going to events. Engineers Australia holds, a number of great events probably every week: technical sessions, webinars, cocktail nights, even if it's just, a networking night at the pub. The Property Council of Australia is another great one to look out for. They do events all the time. The Australian Tunnelling Society, they do a number of great events. I was given my first undergraduate opportunity through the Australian Tunnelling Society. It was just a cocktail event. I went down and started to talk to someone, just a conversation over a beer, and someone said, I'll work on such and such project. What do you do? And that's just how the conversation starts. And when you meet them, you follow up with them, you add them on LinkedIn, and you keep in touch. So it's not something that's relegated to undergraduates. Networking is, hugely important, and it will be for the rest of your career. So I would highly recommend starting now.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, networking is a great opportunity to connect with our peers and also industry. Also a plug that we do have SUCE's Industry Night coming up on the 17th of August. So be ready for that. And just, yeah, one last question. So where do you guys see the company heading in the future? I know that you guys are recently have a new London office. So where do you guys see yourself?
So, I mean, at the moment, yeah, so we've just started in London, only small at the moment. We've got 3 employees, but that will grow. We hopefully should be opening an office in Brisbane to capitalize on obviously the Olympics coming soon and the development that will bring. And ultimately, at the moment, our aim is to triple turnover in the next 5 years. So we turn over around $26 million at the moment, and we're going to triple that in 5 years. That's the aim and that's the goal. That'll be done through organic growth and merger and acquisitions in the future. So ultimately, we're a people business, and we want to attract the right talent now so that we can retain and develop for the future. That is ultimately our aim and goal.
Great. Yeah, sounds great. And what a great goal to have over the next 5 years. And now we're going to move to Q&A. So thanks, Andrew, for sharing that. So let's start off with our first question. So what sector did each of you get your start, and how has that shaped your current level of experience?
I can start with that if you like. So my first role as an undergraduate was actually, I guess, for a contractor, but it was in the asset management space. So I was working on the M2 Lane Cove Tunnel. Then I went and worked for as a design manager for a big D&C contract, WestConnex. And then the real start to my career was in the contracting space with Lend-Lease. So I was with Lend-Lease for a number of years, delivering some road projects for them. And then following that, I went into a career in consulting 3.5 years ago. And so that consulting was in the project management space, mostly government clients, some private development clients. So that was doing I guess, different management roles for Department of Home Affairs and other different property development projects, and that's when I joined North after that. Sorry, the second part of the question, how has that shaped my current level of experience? We've been harping on about this. I think the site-based experience is absolutely key, and I think that's definitely changed the way I view the world. I can put my hand on my heart and say working for a contractor is absolutely not for me. But I wouldn't have known that unless I did it. But importantly, the things I learned from being in that contractor environment, how they operate, the types of things that pull construction projects up on site, has been very valuable for me moving into the consulting space. Yeah, so I suppose to answer the question, just to wrap it up, I think we're all a product of our experiences, but not the experiences themselves, only what we can personally take out of them. I think there's a lesson to be learned in any type of experience, regardless of if you go and do an internship with a structural designer or if you do an internship with a bricklayer on a residential home project. I think there are always things to learn, and you will only ever be the product of what you decide to take out of those experiences.
That sounds great. What about you, Andrew?
I had a very similar experience to Cam, starting working for a major infrastructure contractor. Completely agree with the points that Cam's raised, although just wanted to add one, and that's probably the way I communicate professionally. It's a bit different with in the consulting sphere to how you communicate as a contractor on site. But when you start working as a contractor, you really sort of are thrown into the deep end, and you learn to have a lot of really hard, tough conversations with people, whether it be, perhaps, trades on site, subcontractors, or clients. You grow up pretty quickly. You learn to have some very hard conversations. It certainly shaped my confidence. Feel like I'm a much better communicator, much more confident in myself, and I'm a much better a communicator. And that sort of, I guess, lends it to my role in the project management sector in North, and the way I'm able to manage projects just through that, I guess, that foundation in contracting.
Yeah. I guess site experience would be very different compared to consulting. Would that be a similar experience for you, Aileen?
Yes, very similar. So I actually got my undergrad job through the Sydney Uni job boards. They were looking specifically for someone living in my area for a demolition of a car park. And so I just sent through my resume, hoping for the best. And I got that job. And because of that undergrad job, I had some site experience under my belt that helped me get my graduate job, which was for a tier 1 contractor. I worked out in the tunnels. So like Andrew said, they really throw you in the deep end. They literally threw me into a tunnel and was like, build this. And so I learned a lot. And the thing I learned the most out of that, which has really shaped me in my current career, is just do not stop asking questions. If you're unsure, ask. Always find someone. There's always someone to help you, to collaborate with. That's what I love about working here. Like Cam said earlier, you can just literally knock on someone's door or walk up to someone in the open plan office and ask them a question, ask their advice. And so that was something that I really got taught out on site.
Yeah, that's great. And don't stop asking questions. There's no stupid question.
No, there really isn't.
What about you, Jonathan?
So I actually started my career in contracting, but that was after I got my degree. But before that, which drove my passion for the industry, I actually worked as a labourer on a construction site, working with my father at that moment in time. So we're talking 15, 16. I quickly realised that I didn't want to work with my hands. I wanted to work in the office. We're all going to be pen pushers one day, I hope. And that's where I decided to go on to my degree, and I done a degree in quantity surveying. I started working for contracting companies in the UK on civil engineering projects. And what really shaped my career was taking opportunities. You will find the best projects that you work on in terms of experience are the ones that go wrong, because the ones that go wrong are where you learn. They're the ones where you'll end up being civil engineering professionals, or whether you go into maybe claims, dispute resolution, all of these things. When something goes wrong, you have to get into the detail. And honestly, that is the things that have shaped my career. When I say taking opportunities to work overseas, working with companies from different cultures and different backgrounds, whether I've worked with people from Korea, Spain, Italy, Middle East. Everyone has different ways of doing business and different ways of working. And that for me has really shaped my current level of experience.
Yeah, it's great to see where you've come from, and also now to your consulting experience. Just a really quick, snappy last question. So what is the hardest part about your job in the consulting industry?
I can start that off. And this again ties back to something that I was saying earlier. The nature of consulting is to come and assist in solving a problem that a client doesn't know how to solve. And sometimes that means you don't know how to solve it. And so the hardest part for me is when we take on a new project or we have a new thing to do, is not necessarily having the answer straight away. And to develop the patience to work through it as a process and understand what the solutions might be, and socializing those solutions with other people in the office and different clients and your industry peers is the only way to solve those problems. But that's quite a daunting task when the problem just gets presented to you. So I would say, just to wrap up, the hardest thing is not necessarily knowing the answer, not necessarily knowing how you're going to get the answer, but working through that and having to be patient with it. That's probably what I would say is the most difficult part.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem, but also just being able to work through that must be just really motivating in itself. Would one other person like to share their hardest part of their job?
Looks like it's me. To add to Cameron's point, patience. Again, we'll work in teams that have multiple stakeholders. So whether it'll be people from government, whether it's a contracting organisation, actually waiting for information to come to us is difficult. We can, and sometimes that it's not within our power. So again, the point about being patient is really key. And then communication, being able to communicate the things that we need in a way not to, let's just say, ruffle any feathers with clients that we work with. Again, we've got to maintain that professional relationship during this process as well. So I would say that is probably one of the hardest parts of the job in consulting.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of things that can go wrong, but also just being able to communicate through that. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for North Projects for joining us. Please also visit their website to get to know them more and know more about their internships and graduate programs. Yeah, and just before I'd like to end, I'd just like to give a heads up for our upcoming events, where we have an academic seminar coming up on the 10th of August. And we also have an industry night on the 17th of August, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. And yeah, just be on the lookout for tickets for those. Thank you so much, Jonathan, Andrew, Cameron, and Aileen for joining us. And thank you so much that we have 287 participants who have joined us tonight. So thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks for the opportunity.